Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. And today I'm really excited because we have an amazing guest on our show today. He is an ADHD stress-based coach, and his name is Coach Rob Owen, and he is just amazing. He taps into a lot of different areas, but today we're going to focus on stress because we know that stress is a big thing in everybody's lives, especially when the holidays come, when new things come about and just everyday obstacles in general. We go through stress, and sometimes stress can get the best of us. And as you know, 70% of illnesses are caused by stress. So we need to learn how to cope with things when they come our way. And Rob is here now to show you how to do that. So I love how you're going to talk about how to handle stress. And I know that the holidays are coming. And, we just had Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah are on its way. And then we have the new year, and everybody wants to make those New Year's resolutions a reality. And then you got your everyday things that just pop into our lives. And, it's hard. It's really hard to learn how to handle stress and clear your mind and just focus on the important stuff. But, for you, what's your ideal of, first, how do we cope with stress during the holidays? Because people tend to, I see it with my clients, I see it with people I deal with, I see it with family members. Everyone gets a little edgy around the holiday season, and because there's so much to do in such a short little time, what do you feel like when it comes to stress?
Great question. First, I got to say thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, you're
It is
very
such a
welcome.
pleasure to meet you. Our conversation just before we hit record was so good. It's so good to connect with you. I love what you're doing. Your story is amazing.
Oh,
It,
thank
it
you.
just warms me up. Really, really, it is. It's beautiful. Um, I would start by, all the stress in the holidays we were speaking before. To me, it's a choice. If we take a moment and step back and we think, well, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's this really about? We have Thanksgiving, we have the wonderful American holiday that we were talking about,
Yeah.
Black Friday, that made up holiday, their holy day holiday. I don't know about that. And then yeah, then we have the Hanukkah, the Christmas, the New Year's, and it's all put into this tight little package for us to run around like little rats trying to figure out what we should do. I recommend like to my clients, I have a couple that are dealing with that, and obviously it's because it's the time of the year. If you just take a moment, like honestly, when you're feeling that, um, to take a deep breath in and say, what is this really about? What is this time of year really about? And
Yeah.
you slow down. You take a moment to slow down.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you start to think a little bit like, wait, this is kind of a choice. What am I caught up in? And that is the practice of mindfulness, creating the space between the self and the perceiver, the
Yeah.
one that perceives the thoughts and the thoughts themselves, right? Because a lot of times we think our life is just life happening to us, but a lot of our life is our thoughts. And
Right.
if we're able to take a moment and find that space in between our perceiver, our sense of self, to those thoughts, we may not be able to control them, but we can observe them and know that we are not those thoughts and we're not those emotions. Those were created for us, right? Or within the zeitgeist of the culture. So if you're in a busy shopping center and you take a moment, it's the same way your mind's going to be, right? But if you sit back and you wait a moment, you go, wait, maybe this is about family. Maybe this is about giving. Maybe this is about, you know, um, experience and warming the heart. So I always bring it back. I have my clients slow down. I have a mindful movement practice and qigong and tai chi, and I usually open up every session like that. I say, "Hey, how's it going?" And then we sit back and we start to just breathe
Yeah.
and focus and make a mind body connection. Then we talk, and that after that, the stress kind of begins to kind of melt away, and then we dig in a little bit deeper depending on the individual.
I think like you mentioned, like sometimes we let our thoughts control us. And I think it's a crazy statistic. I think it's like we get over 1,000 thoughts through our head a day, I think it is, or it could be a
hmm
little bit more than that, but I know it's
hmm
somewhere around that range. You know, when you start to breathe and you, like you said, and you start to create mindfulness, is that one of the powerful ways to start slowing down the mind so all these thoughts don't flush into your head and take control over your well-being?
Yeah, I think it's all about slowing down and when you begin to breathe a little bit slower and deeper, and move a little slower, um, what happens is it just kind of comforts your autonomic nervous system. Right. So it begins with the nervous system. And
Hmm.
when you relax the nervous system, well, then the emotions begin to relax and calm and the thoughts begin to calm. And then from there you can begin to see like, well, what's that slow it down. What's that sensation? Is that an emotion? Is that an ache and pain? Is that an anxiety? Is that a fear? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And and it's for me, my practice is mindful movement. So it's all about linking the movement, the breath, and the intent together for specific amounts of time and specific ways. And as you do that and you train your neurological system by doing that, what happens is you seem to be able to create a space between yourself and all of those thoughts and feelings. And then you have a choice. Well, do I want to buy into that right now?
Yeah.
Do I want to go into that right now or not so much? I think I'm just going to sit back down and be a little bit more grounded. I'll work with that a little bit later. Maybe I'll write that down. And if it's really important, maybe in an hour or two, you check on it. If it's really important, it'll come back up.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, I know that you're very passionate when it comes to mindful movement and it comes to really healing the body naturally. What brought you so passionate about, mindful movement and about learning all these different natural techniques onto how to help your mind and your body and yourself as, connect as one and be able to, overcome a lot of the different obstacles that life kinds of throws at us.
Yeah. Well, my story is this. So at 17, I was almost killed in an auto accident. Ended up with 200 stitches in my face that
Wow.
they didn't know if I was going to make it. On the ER bed with laceration here, laceration here, laceration here. Luckily, it wasn't my time to go, and I made it. A couple months of recovery, and and I was like, okay, so my face is starting to look normal again, and I can kind of start moving around again. And it wasn't but 6 months to a year later is it all that trauma hit my body
Wow.
and it hit my mind. And I had been training in martial arts previously, but not in the Chinese martial arts and not necessarily in Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and Qigong. So it was about a year or so in, and one day I just couldn't get out of bed. Like literally, the back was just locked, the neck was locked, and I was just eating Advil like they were M&Ms, you know?
Yeah.
I would call my chiropractor to come to my house because I couldn't move. And then from there, then it started to go into emotional things like PTSD kind of things like
Yeah.
anxiety, depression, all the stuff we all know about. And it was deep. I had always been fascinated by the Tao Te Ching and Lao Tzu, the work of Lao Tzu, and the philosophy around that. And so those are the philosophical underpinnings of the Tai Chi and the Qigong. And so on one of my better waves of healing in my early 20s, I went to a Kung Fu and Tai Chi place, and I left them a note. It was the classic note where put a little note underneath the door. It's like, I'm here to train Sifu, this kind of thing. I'd watched a lot of Kung Fu movies as a kid. And I got this call back, and he's just like, yeah, come on and let's talk. Well, about 10 or 15 years later, well, 15, 10, about 10 years later, I started teaching. And then I just kept doing that. And I found over the many years is I didn't need all the Advil, didn't need all the chiropractors, didn't need all the therapists. What I needed to just simply move my body in a specific way that would activate my nervous system, that would move the energy through my meridians, that would ground me, that would teach me to breathe properly,
Yeah.
defend myself, all of the things, and how to hold my body properly, body mechanics,
Yeah.
all of the above. And after that, it was like, this is just what I did. This was my practice. So since
Yeah.
then, 20, I think it was 26, 51 now, it's just what I do. Now I've changed from more of the fighting and the weaponry, when I
Hmm.
was younger,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the Tai Chi and the Qigong years back. And still to this day, this is what I practice. And it's just a gem. It's a gem. And there's many gems. Yoga is a gem as well. Absolutely. We were speaking about herbs. Those are natural based gems that we have that we can utilize to have more stress
Yeah.
have less stress in our lives and live a better, more balanced. It's about balance and live a more balanced life. So that's my story around working with stress.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And when you were going through all this stuff, what were some of the most powerful things that you've learned from your own experience that you were able to be able to decrease your stress level, to be able to, because you went through some really hard
Oh
obstacles.
yeah.
And
Oh
that's a
yeah.
lot of stress. That's anxiety. That could lead to depression.
Oh yeah. All
All
of it.
those things are intertwined with each other. How are you able to overcome it? Now, you mentioned all the different, techniques that you used, but maybe you could explain to people how to begin, because that's the question I
Mhm.
get all the time.
Right.
They hear these great stories and they're
Hmm.
like, okay, that sounds great. How do I start? Where do I begin? They
Hmm.
feel like they're on a highway with 6 lanes and they don't know where to turn you know what's the first thing if someone's really going through a lot of stress in their life, whether it be for the holidays or a traumatic experience in their life or just everyday stress? Where does someone begin to use these great techniques and to be able to start decreasing the stress in their life and be able to start living a life where they're at a level of calmness where they can handle things with clarity and focus?
Hmm. So when is now,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yes.
it's right now and it's always now. So I mean, um, and where I would say wherever you can be, not while you're sitting in traffic. That's not good because you would need to go to the internal world, right?
Yes.
But it's all within you. So to start is if you can breathe and if you're able to put your feet on the ground, that's where it starts. And with simple 3 deep breaths through your belly, with your feet on the ground, flat on the ground, and the palms of your hands on your knees, your shoulders relaxed, your chin slightly tucked, the crown of your head upward, your back is relaxed but straight, eyes closed. And the focus is on the breath, or it can be at the bottom of your feet.
Hmm.
And you just start with 3 deep breaths. That will shift something. I guarantee it. If you do, it will shift something slightly. From there, then you can add the amount of time you do. Um, and then you can add movement. I mean, the possibilities are nearly endless after training for a while. But really, just know that you can start now. It's like, I mean, if it was appropriate, I just walk you through a meditation now. But I don't know how much time we have. But once you're done listening to this podcast, you can just sit there and take 3 deep breaths through your belly. Make sure you're filling up your belly with air, your shoulders are relaxed, your feet are grounded. It's actually to make that choice to take that time. Some clients I have is set a timer. I don't want to do it right now. All those defenses come up.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. The defense comes up and you know it. You're self-aware enough to know that. Cool. Go hit 10 minutes on your oven timer. That's when you're going to do it.
Right.
And you start. And then questions, comments, concerns, robowen.coach. Of course, I have to say that, right? Go there, find a coach who can help you do that and be accountable for your practice.
I love that. Now, when it comes to breathing, a lot of people, they say you have to breathe through the belly because a lot of people would breathe through the chest. They
Hmm.
just take a deep breath. And there's a big difference when you breathe through your belly and you're just
Hmm.
taking a deep breath and it's really coming from the chest area and not the stomach area. Can
Hmm.
you explain the difference and why they should, and maybe even show
Sure.
an example?
Oh, sure, sure. So, what you want to do, it's the same way in meditation or when you're singing, when you're doing, operatic singing, diaphragmatic singing. You want
Mhm.
to breathe in deep, filling up your belly. And what that does in the Chinese ways of seeing things is that you want to drop your breath down low, and you want to be aware of your lower dantian. They call it dantian, which means energy elixir, energy field elixir. You want to drop your energy there, and you do that. A lot of people put one hand on their, like, it's about 3 inches below their belly button,
Mhm.
and they breathe into that place where your hand is. So when
Okay.
you inhale big, you do that, and you exhale back out. Now, if I put my hand on my chest where my heart is and I breathe in there, I can fill up big,
Yeah.
right? But what happens is the energy is moving upward. And what we don't want that in this particular kind of breathing. If you do like yogic three-part breathing, there's all these different complexities and different ways. Wim Hof breathing, all the above. I'm just to articulate. I'm just speaking about the method in which I use to relax and calm my own nervous system as well as my clients through many years of study. So in this one way, you drop your energy down by breathing through your belly,
Hmm.
um, and all the way up through the crown of your head, right? And
Right.
your intent can be on your breath or on the bottom of your feet if you're looking for grounding. If you have your breath up high, think of like when you're anxious or when you're angry or whatever, where does your breath go? It goes up high and your chest gets tight.
Hmm.
That's the somatic response to these emotions. Your body's reacting, right? And
Yeah.
so if that's up there and then you're breathing from up there, not so good, right?
Yeah.
So you want to drop that energy down and you want to be grounded, right? So let's say any martial artist or any boxer would say you don't want your chi or your energy up high or any runner even, right? Because you're going to start panting. You
Right.
don't want it, right? I mean, that's kind of the physiological aspect. You want to make sure it's dropped down and you're breathing through your nose. So that the basic understanding is you want your breath in your belly. And when I start, I have a client, the left hand's on the belly and the right hand's on the heart.
Mm.
And so you're kind of, there's like a circuit going on and you're breathing from your belly, right?
Mhm.
And you start from there.
I like that. I like that. Now, when a person is breathing, is there a certain amount of time that they need to focus on their breathing exercise? Do you do 5 minutes? Do you try to do for 10 minutes? Because I know there's different people
Yeah.
who refer different times, but if you're looking
Yeah.
for that calmness, is there a certain amount of time that you should?
Yeah. So in my movement practice, so like when I'm doing like, like when I'm doing the Tai Chi, so I'm doing like an inhale and then an exhale, right? So I'm moving the same rate of my breath as my hands, like whatever I'm doing. I don't know if we're doing video right now or audio, but I can. I had one last podcast. The guy had me demonstrate on video. I'd never done that. I'm like, all right, let's do it. But if you're just doing sitting and breathing, then like box breathing is really consistent, where you inhale for 4, and then you hold for 4, and then you exhale for 4, and then you stay at the bottom at the very end of your breath for 4. So each one is a 4. So you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and stay at the bottom for 4.
Wow.
And when you're at the bottom, it's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of like the ocean's waves. When there's like that space between the waves when it gets quiet
Yes.
for a moment,
Uh-huh.
that's what you're kind of mimicking because the breath is just the breath, like the heart, it's waves, it's pulsations. And if
Yeah.
you're able to control those to some way, in a relaxed 4-4-4 box breathing, that can bring you a nice sensation for, let's say, 1 to 3 minutes if you were starting. Just
Right.
hold that down. You can use a timer. There's other ones, but in general, for relaxation, you want a longer exhale,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's like a 4-7-8. There's different like numbers you can hold your breath in different ways. Most of my work is linked with the breath, intent, and movement. So I will have a relatively normal breath unless I'm exerting power in a form. But my breath will be in my belly as I'm doing my movement, my qigong movement, and it's in general when you pull your hands back, you're inhaling, and
Mm-hmm.
then when you push them forward, you're exhaling. Or when you pull them in, you're inhaling, and you push them out, you're exhaling. Yeah, so it depends if you're doing mindful movements such as Tai Chi or Qigong, or if you're doing just breath-based work. Mhm.
I love it. I love it. And is this something that you should use several times a day? Is it something that I would assume you should be doing this on a daily routine. And
Mhm.
but is there a certain amount of times you do when you first wake up before you go to bed, maybe for relaxation, for sleep? Is there certain thing, or just whenever you feel you need it? Because maybe you're in the middle of the day and you're at work and someone just stressed you out. Maybe you just want to get down to that
Yeah.
level of calmness and so forth.
Yeah, I would circle D, all of the above. But definitely definitely in the morning. Like if you can, like if you have a morning practice, it's like, I mean, if you don't have a morning practice, please come talk to Stacey or I. Really, like you have to have a morning practice, whatever it is. Um, Read the newspaper. That's kind of it, but not really. We're talking about going internal, making mind-body connection, working on breath or movement, exercise, whatever it might be, right, to take care of ourselves. Um, I would say morning practice. My morning practice is anywhere, like if I'm trying to get out the door with my son, it's like a 7 to 10. I have a 20-minute practice and like a 40-minute practice, right? So in the morning for sure. And then when things come up, it's nice to have a go-to to
Yeah.
kind of control. Well, I shouldn't say control. It's more about adapting and letting go than controlling,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah,
It's more about that and learning how to do that. Um, and then yeah, at nighttime, although those longer exhales in the nighttime, like you definitely, if you're going to take a deep breath in, hold, do your breath to have long, slow exhales, everything out. You do a few of those and you'll feel your body fully relax. Maybe couple that with a body scan. But morning practice is super key. And then have a go-to. I was talking to, um, excuse me, a client who his son had an altercation and well, socked someone for doing something, and
oh wow.
he wanted to hire me to help his son work with his anger management. And so he's like, no, I want something immediate. I don't want like him to do this morning practice thing, this and that. And so, I said most importantly is if there's an immediate feeling or anger or something that comes up, in this physical altercation, it was like first step away.
Yeah,
But then that's a metaphor for like, hold on, step away. That means step inside. What's happening?
right.
And then you add the breath or the movement or whatever. But to have something in the immediate moment, let's say you're going to go on stage. I performed a lot in the past. So actually, that didn't bother me. And well, as a teen, it did. As a kid, I would get really anxious and I didn't have any practice.
Mhm.
But I've worked with a couple singers, and so to have um, a practice that okay, you're going to go on stage. Okay, we need a grounding exercise. Like we
Right,
need a grounding exercise for 10 minutes before you go on and 30 seconds before you go on. What are you going to do?
right.
Like you're going to hold one long hum. Are you going to hold a tone? Are you going to sit in? You going to sit? Are you going to stand in a horse stance? Are you going to like what's your practice? And then how is that going to ground you?
Yeah.
Very important to have.
Wow, I like that idea a lot. I think I am very into breath work. I think it's so powerful. I think it could really change people's, emotions and the way they're thinking and their reactions so quickly
Mhm.
just by taking a few moments out and just reconstructing your breath and then just trying to clear your mind. It just does wonders to the body.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
agreed.
It's amazing.
Agreed.
Now, you became an ADHD stress coach. Why was, you do a lot of other things, but you really have a passion for this. And why,
Mhm.
did you focus on ADHD? Was there a
Mhm.
specific thing that really made you passionate about this? Because even though you do a lot of other stuff, this is something that you're very passionate about.
Because it's me and it's my son
Hmm.
and it's my students. I've taught 20 plus years with students, neurodiverse students, ADHD, the hyperactive or inattentive or hyper-focused. There's different kinds of ADHD. So I work in particular with folks, with like executive functioning challenges and impulsive kind of challenges. And because that was me as a kid. I didn't know what was going on, but I'm telling you,
Yeah,
I would not stop talking and I would not stop being the class clown.
yeah,
I could not remember where I put anything. My working memory was like next to none,
yeah,
no ability to organize. I somehow made it through my early schooling days.
yeah,
Um, and funny enough, I began to learn that about myself. And then I began working with students, mostly teens, anywhere from middle school to high school. Um, and then I started to delve into that world, and now it's just like like mindfulness was like 90s or something, or like late 90s. It was like
Yeah.
beginning to get popular, and Zen and all these things. And it's fun to see that because I was like already doing that. And then it was like,
Yeah.
yay, look at this cool thing. And then now it's like ADHD, yay. And it's just like, these things have been around for a while. They just
Yeah.
made it more popularized, and they put a name on it. I mean, senses you know, of impulsivity and lack of ability to, like manage yourself, your emotions, or your time or anything, or like never forget your the other sides of ADHD, which are the abilities to be very, very creative,
Hmm.
right? To be, charismatic, to have endless energy, to have hyper focus, to do multiple things at one time. And some people say that's not a good thing to do multiple things at one time, but I don't know if you've ever seen a good cook. But you know what I'm saying? So, or a good teacher, they're
Yeah.
doing multiple things in multiple times. So,
Yeah.
but that aside, I became fascinated with it because when I got more into mindfulness, I'd be able to see my own beehive mind,
Right.
or in the Hindu ways, my own monkey mind. And I was like, right? I mean, there's the ancients already knew this is the nature of the mind,
Yeah.
right? And so I was able to become the beekeeper, if you will.
Right.
I was able to kind of see where the swarm is, and do I want to follow that one over there? Do I want
Yeah.
to do that over there? And then when I was teaching, I found myself, in just basics like, hey, if we use the same color folders for each, we're going to use blue for language arts and red for history, and then you start doing that, and then you go, okay, well, that kid's doing better like that. So, okay. And how about if we put like a little timer or a little clock, for time management?
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
every time that the child does this, you just click the timer and you teach them behaviorally how to do that? Okay, so now we have the child having tools to not whatever a certain amount of time to do their chores or something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Or, like a lot of the kids will like a sensory there, a lot of the kids or adults. I mean, I work with two that are, adult ADHD. It's a
Yeah.
real thing. I even have a book right here if we're doing video, like uh, whatever it is, the higher sensory input. Okay, so you're in the shower for 35 minutes. My son, my younger son. So you just get a little digital timer, he clicks it. So I found tools for myself that help me stay more on task and refine my energy,
Yeah.
as well as the Tai Chi and the Qigong really refine my energy, my body energy. So we're doing different shapes with our body. So you think of it
Right.
as if you're moving your body in specific shapes and postures,
Hmm.
the mind is going to follow. So
Right.
if your body, mind, okay, so now you're shaping the mind, shaping the energy of the mind through the body,
Wow. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And these are particular movements or forms like Wu Ji or like Wild Horse or whatever it is. These shapes have been used for well, some of them thousands of years. Qigong's 4,000 years. Tai Chi is
Yeah.
about 700. But and then you have a stronger mind-body connection. I began to figure out that it was the moving mindfulness that helped shape like or refine my energy in my body, and I was more aware of it. And then from all that, I was like, okay, I think I should start like teaching this and coaching with this. And then I was
Yeah.
inspired to do that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Now, where
Yeah.
can people find your book?
Oh, geez. Well, I actually have my book. This book is from this is from another individual. This is from Phil Boissiere. I was holding up a couple, then there's ADHD Refocused. I have all these
Okay.
books. I'm actually working on a book around this. It's funny you
Are
say
you?
that, but no,
Okay.
I do have two other books that are published, but they're more about reading comprehension and things,
Hmm?
that I published through the Critical Thinking Company, but they are not ADHD, impulsivity, and coaching based stuff. But right now, I'm putting together a program and I'm putting together a book, and that's actually in the mix right now.
Is that probably going to be out in 2025?
That's one of my goals. Maybe I need a coach to help me with that.
I'll coach you.
I was just saying, well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Maybe I'd like to get that thing out by in 2025 because it's some big ideas, but grounding those ideas in reality it's a process.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. That's very
Yeah.
exciting. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we have positive natural ways to help people overcome things. And I think ADHD was, a lot of people had ADHD as we were growing up. It just was not a condition.
Hmm.
We didn't diagnose it yet,
Hmm.
and so it was not talked about. But there
Hmm.
were plenty of people that I knew that had the symptoms that you mentioned,
Hmm.
and but it just wasn't talked about. And then they diagnosed it, and then all of a sudden you saw this high percentage of
Hmm.
individuals that were diagnosed with the condition. And
Hmm.
a lot of times too, they also traced it back to some of the foods we were eating too.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it was, lifestyle changes that could actually help and actually decrease the severity of the ADHD because, that's a whole different podcast we could probably do, but there is a lot of things that contribute to ADHD and how severe it actually can be. Because if we change certain things naturally in our lifestyle, we could actually help keep our ADHD controlled or actually bring it to a point where it's pretty much non-existent as long as we continue to care for ourselves in a certain way. So, there's a lot to be said when it comes to ADHD. There are lots of natural ways to help that condition. And a lot of times, maybe we have so many people in this world that have it because of the what we're putting in our bodies, how we're treating our bodies, and what we're surrounding ourselves, the environment we're surrounding ourselves around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So well said. It is so true. Like what we put in our bodies is so key. And how we move throughout the day is so key. And finding that space between all those busy thoughts is key. And if you have those in mind and begin working on them via coach, via your own research, via practice, you can totally dampen all of that. But it takes the first step. It takes awareness. It takes practice.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Now, if we had to take everything we talked about today and you wanted to emphasize on some important factors, what are some of the things you really like to emphasize about today's conversation?
I would say that well, I would even articulate in the context of um, the holiday seasons.
Hmm.
You know, um, Slow down and know that you have a choice.
Yes,
Remember what it's really about, and anchor yourself in your breath. Anchor yourself in your posture. Be present in your body, and know that you already have what you need. You
yes,
just got to tap into it.
that's so true. That's so true and so well said. And what are some of the services that you provide?
I do coaching right now. My coaching clients have really, well, like your business is thriving. Um, I would say most of my time is spent coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. Eventually, we'll do some small group. My emphasis is in things that are related to ADHD. Some people come in diagnosed, some won't. But things like impulsivity or their stress is probably the number one. Learning how to calm their autonomic nervous system through breath and movement and talk therapy, if you will. Um, Time organization, things like that. So I spend most of my time doing that one-on-one.
Oh, I love it. And where can people contact you?
I would go to robowen.coach. So that's ROBOWEN.coach, robowen.coach. And you can contact me through there or info@movetofocus.com. And move to focus, there's a number two. Um, and yeah, those would be the main routes.
I love it. And do you have any social networks that you're on?
I do. I have Instagram. I was trying to like not go to the YouTube and the other stuff because it's very time consuming. So most of my work is on Instagram. So move underscore number two underscore focus. and also LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, would be happy to talk with you there as well.
Love it. I love it. This has been amazing, Rob. I'm so
Yeah,
glad you came on this show.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been, wonderful because a lot of the techniques we talked about today are so beneficial and they could apply to everybody, because anyone that goes through stress or anxiety, anyone that has ADHD, all these different techniques can help everybody because they're so powerful and they work. And I'm so glad that you came on the show today to share them with us and to show us how through your examples and descriptions. And I just think you're wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's wonderful. I'm all filled up now. It's so good. It's so good to meet you.
Oh, it's a
Thank you.
pleasure meeting you too. You have a great day.
All right, thanks you too.